Metsadasi, welcome to another edition of Mawio'mi. I'm your host, Jim Richardson.
And I'm your co-host, Terry Richardson. So, bro, we have some great people here with us.
Movers and shakers
in the region.
What can I say? Yeah.
And we have Danielle Guitar, the mayor of Belle Bay. Danielle, welcome.
Pleased to meet.
And Brian Kenny, who has been a member of the Bathurst region in many capacities. But we're going to have these guys give a little bit of their background. Danielle, how about yourself?
Well, we don't have 4 hours though for that.
I'll cut it short. And it started with the federal government back in the 80s, and I worked for 17 years for the federal government, and then I moved and I bought a business, operated a business here selling ATVs and recreational vehicle for 11 years. And then I went to politics as the EA of Roland Ashley, Minister Ashley, and Brian was a minister of the NB Housing at the time.
Yeah, social
development or NB Housing at the time. And from there, I became MLA for the Chaleur, at the time it was called the Nigadu Chaleur. And by the time it was done, I had the chance to work on different files, and I was also Speaker of the House for 2 years.
And now your present role?
Now I'm the mayor of Belle Bay.
Yourself, Brian?
I've been kind of hanging around here my whole life. My family's been here for many years, and I've been fortunate to be able to grow up in a family business, and from my grandfather, great-grandfather, my father, and then I got involved with politics, and this is the first time I've been in front of a camera for a long time. It's been at least 5 years. So
you're losing some of that polish, are you?
But I've had a really great number of years working in Bathurst and working in the Chaleur region, and especially working with Danielle in the MLA capacity was a really good eye opener for me. But at the same time, I got to meet so many wonderful people like you folks, and I think the experience as an MLA is quite rewarding to be able to meet all of the different types of people living in this great province, and we call New Brunswick. So now I'm building houses right now. So
good man, into where we need housing is something we need. But guys, I think from our perspective, we want to. You both have been you've got stalwart history in the government. You're both representative of the region. Your concerns are for the region. Your heart is here. You're living here. This is where you guys want to be. And for us, that's important because I think as we move together, that's what always been our message. We have to do this together. It can't be in separate silos. We have to be continuously moving together.
Yeah, and there's a comparison here. Danielle was talking about business. Brian was talking about housing. There's sort of a link there between the growth in a region, whether you can link business with housing. Brian, I know we talked about this a couple of times. I'm going to let you go with this one.
Well, since COVID, when I decided to leave politics, and since COVID, part of the issue is when we became an MLA, both Danielle and myself, we were always trying to put economic development and the social needs of our population here. When COVID hit, everything kind of hit everybody. It was like a brick wall. What's going on? One thing about Atlantic Canada, the fact that COVID was here throughout the world, people started looking at Atlantic Canada. In the last 5 years, we've had over 400,000 people come east. So that creates some really positive things for the economy, but at the same time, it creates some challenges with whether it's housing, whether it's our schools, whether it's our hospitals, infrastructure, and so on. So I've been trying to take a look at those opportunities, and it's actually helped me quite well in being able to get rid of our vacancy rate in our apartments. But at the same time, it's been a struggle for many people trying to find affordable housing. And I have to commend you folks at Papineau and all of the economic development you folks have done together with your council and partnerships with everybody moving things forward. And you've got a number of projects. You should talk about them here tonight, what you've done, and a lot of stuff that you have in the hopper right now for the future. But I do believe that we have a number of challenges, but we do have a number of positive things where people are looking at Atlantic Canada as a great place to live, and no better place here than the Chaleur region, Belle Bay.
But Brian, on the theme of challenges, you talked about people coming back. A lot of people coming back are the retirement age. And if you look at, over the next decade, there's going to be about 100,000 people retired. from the workforce in New Brunswick. And there's not enough younger people to take their place. So you got to deal with immigration. And the sad part there is that, about 70%, believe it or not, about 70% of the population don't agree with immigration. I mean, we're seeing it here in Bathurst. I mean, we've got people that are working out at Harvey's, in our Harvey's restaurant. You go downtown, they're working all over the place, very constructively, Now they're here for a short time because they're on student visas and they can only work, I think, 15 or 20 hours a week. But still, I think we've got to open up immigration, yet the government's cut back on the number of permanent residents that are going to be coming in the next year and the year after that. And so that's a challenge I see as we move forward.
In your aspect, Daniel, what do you think of the housing situation?
Just to add to what has been said, when I became mayor of Bell Bay, the population was 14,353 people. We got the numbers last week from the province. We're up at 14,979. That's more than 600 people.
Yeah, in just a year.
And last month, as an MLA, that was in 2022, there was 400 people on social development lists looking for apartment. So 400 back then, plus the 600. Imagine the pressure on the system right now. It's unsurvivable.
So what's the solution for that, Danielle?
Build houses. That's it. We got to build houses. We got to find program. We got to work together with different government, the provincial government, federal government, come up with incentives for contractors to build. Municipality don't build. It's contractors like Brian that builds houses, and we need incentives because if it's not profitable enough, they'll leave their money in the bank.
Well,
you got to make it. You got to make it profitable to them.
We met with Panasonic at one time, and they were talking about a very strategic approach towards it. You say, okay, do you have people? Number one, do you have training, and then housing? So people want to come in. It's not just because the land is great, but they look at the total picture. And so we've been talking with the college in terms of the training side. In terms of housing, we've brought somebody in from Montreal to look at we want to probably do the same with Bell Bay because they didn't. I don't think it's materialized yet, but they came in a private jet. They see the opportunity to build houses because of the need, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think that the idea of trying to work collaboratively in the big picture is very important. And housing is I was just talking to Jeff here, the producer, and he was just saying in Fredericton, the big topic now is he's always looking for subject matter for his shows, I guess, and the big topic now is housing.
Mm-hmm. Part of the housing issue we have since COVID was the price of materials, price of labor, lack of labor, trying to find skilled labor, finding contractors. The other thing too is because of the amount of people coming in, rents have gone up. So then there's affordability measures that are I can remember when I first bought my first home and didn't make a whole lot of money, but you go to the bank and get a 5% down payment on a home, and a home might have been $50,000 back then.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as a $50,000 home.
No.
So how do we find ways to be able to build new houses or the existing stock that's out there that's affordable for younger people? The fact of the matter here in the Chaleur region is, 50% of our population is over the age of 65, and there's more of that coming. How do we attract those younger people back here? I think part of it is having flex housing, I know that Bell Bay is working on, and maybe I don't want to let the cat out of the bag, but you're working in different ways to be able to try and find different envelopes of sizes of houses, making it easier for the developer, as you said, to be able to have access to be able to either build a home or put a home out there that's affordable, that a young family or a young person can afford to be able to buy a home. And it is difficult, but at the same time, I think also our economy has transitions from an industry-based economy to a service economy. You guys are part of it, and congratulations to the work you're doing. But it's amazing to see how many new families have came to the area. We have the Trump effect also south of the border, which is a negative effect, where 90% of our goods and services is being sold in the United States. And we have tariffs, we've got interprovincial trade barriers that we're trying to get rid of. There's so many factors since COVID that have hit. I pity the politicians out there trying to figure whether I think we had it easy when we were there. But I can remember also when I first got into politics that the unemployment rate in northeastern New Brunswick was hitting 20%. So right now it's changed. Things have changed. Demographics have changed. I do believe there's going to be some positive, but we have to work together as a team to figure this out.
No, you're 100% right. You know, in the economic development, you know, when we're looking at it, we're not doing it on a myopic approach. We're looking at it from a regional approach. You know, we're bringing in the communities of Bell Bay, Bathurst, Belledune, because we've got to look at it. You know, when these proponents come in, I mean, you know, there's going to be opportunity for jobs for those people in those regions, and how can all those communities benefit? Well, the people, you know, everybody in Belledune is not going to live in Belledune. They're going to be looking at living in Bathurst, in Beresford, or in Bell Bay, and they're going to be looking at, you know, outside of the region. So, you know, it's known that people will travel an hour to work. So, you know, this is not a bad thing. That'll create some opportunity, I think, within the region, and that's why we're excited about a lot of that work.
Danielle, on the people that have moved to your neighborhood, Bell Bay and the surrounding areas, a lot of these people have come from all over the world, or mostly Canada, or from southern part of the province.
Ontario, Quebec, and the Maritime.
And
Mostly Ontario.
Yeah, and I think
A lot of people from
part of the attractiveness of our area is that you can still buy a home for a decent price. A lot of my friends have moved on to Ontario and so on. They're my age, getting ready to retire, and they've bought their house maybe in the mid-'80s, and now it's worth this much money.
Yeah.
And they can come back here and buy a brand new home
And live off the
and
earnings.
live off the extra money. So
exactly.
there is an opportunity for those people to come to the Atlantic provinces, specifically our area. We want them to come here.
But, you know, Danielle, if you look at, you know, for example, you talked about the housing, and, you know, you got almost 600 people coming in. That puts a big demand on, you know, the structures that you've got, water, sewer, you know, anything else that you've got in there. So you need a good tax base to go along with that.
Yeah, and those infrastructure were built back in the 70s.
Yeah, even worse, yeah.
Yeah, and people don't realize that, but the water sewage, or the system underneath there, if the pipe was, I don't know, 24 inches big, it was sufficient in the 70s. But
Yeah.
the more street you had to that main pipe, eventually it won't be sufficient, so you need to increase it. And construction now, the price for those infrastructures are just unbelievable. Like a substation, like to move water from one place to another, we're talking $3 million just for one substation. And we have 4 in various certain. We have 3 at Petit-Rocher. We have a couple in Pointe-Verte. And the one in Pointe-Verte and Nigidou are pretty recent. We're talking about 30 years. But the one in some of the Petit-Rocher and Beresford, they're almost 50 years old. So we have to look at renewing those.
And that raises an interesting point, you know, when you're looking at, for example, Bill C5, you know, where you're fast-tracking projects as fast as you can. So you pick a community, you pick a project. Well, it's just not the cost of the project. It goes back to what about the infrastructure requirements in the community to be able to sustain the influx of people that are going to be needed to run whatever project you've got there.
Yeah. No, it's going to be a tough situation, and it will last for another 15, 20 years before it won't fix by itself, but before the baby boomers are gone.
Yeah.
I'll be from the last group, I guess, if my health stays. But by the time we're out of the game, baby boomers, we need another 15, 20 years. And like Brian says, I'm glad I'm no longer in the government, because it's not easy to find solution.
The Creator's got the door open for me at 76, but I'm saying, wait, I got too much to do here.
Yes,
So as a
yes.
baby boomer, I want to hang around a little bit longer.
A little bit longer.
Stay tuned, we'll be right back.
Well, welcome back to our next segment of Mawio'mi Gathering Place. Like I always say, we always have these good conversations in between, and we get caught up in it. But one of the things we were talking about, Brian, and Brian had weighed in on you know, the availability of the labor force. You know, what are the challenges you're facing?
Well, in my part of it, where I'm building houses and renovating existing buildings that I have, is finding skilled labor. Now there's some really great people around here, and I'm fortunate to be able to find a good team and have people that are dedicated that come to work every day, but they're all aging. They're all my age. So I guess, how do we get younger people? Now, I've seen a lot of young professionals, carpenters, engineers, and so on getting involved. It's really nice to see young people that are my kids' age involved. And in fact, my daughter's helping me out right now. She's going to be teaching here, so she's planning on staying here in the neighborhood. But my other daughter lives in Nova Scotia, and I don't know where we're going to be going in the next number of years. You look at the demographics when I said 50% of the population in our neighborhood are over the age of 65. 10 years, they're all going to be 75. So how do we find that skills gap that's going to happen? There's the other thing that we never talked about, and I don't know if we want to go down this rabbit path, is AI. So that's a whole
for sure.
That's a whole other segment.
You know what? It's interesting when you talk about that. You look at the gap between the older people and the younger people in terms of AI. The younger people are embracing it. The older people, not. Well, it's the same thing when you had computers, right, in the workplace. Younger people get on the computer, the older people wouldn't get on the computer.
But the problem you have is going back to Brian's point, is that you're not going to have people who are going to want to build houses. You know what I mean? Unless you're going to have an AI system that's going to come in and build the house for you. I mean, that's
Probably,
the
yeah.
well, no, but that's going to be the challenge.
Part
right?
of the things when I was a minister of education for a while in early childhood development, we looked at a lot of those issues how are we changing the curriculum to be able to meet the needs of 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road. And even prior to that, in our first government that we were there, we were looking at trying to implement the students in school to be able to work with the businesses. So we'd have classes where they would be integrated into the community, learning the ropes, and trying to get those skill sets that people would take a look at. Now, the universities and post-secondary education trying to figure out, okay, what classes are we going to be teaching our students for not a year from now, 2 years from now, and 10 years from now. So everybody has a big role to play on where are we going with our changing demographics and the way the world is changing. So we've got a lot of things.
You're 100% right. I mean, AI is going to be a whole new spectrum when we get into it. What do you find with the employment side of it, Danielle? Do you find I know one of the things it's in the past now. I mean, amalgamation has happened. They took the districts and they put them together, and whether you like it or not, it's here to stay.
It's here to stay. It won't change.
And it won't change. So have you found that embracing of people within Bell Bay, Bathurst was still Bathurst, but even Bathurst has taken on some other regions. So, but I mean, from your perspective, do you see some challenges there?
Major challenges at the moment, because we have a city of 15,000 people now with a budget of 17 million, but we didn't have the tools to administer such a new city. We had accounting programs, we had different tools within the municipality for smaller municipality. So right now it's as if we're building a plane while we're flying, okay? Because people keep asking for service. Even though we're not ready for some of the service, we still have to provide it. So it's been
and your
it's been a
infrastructure,
challenge.
and your infrastructure is growing as well. So now you've got that challenge of all those other infrastructures that you're,
Exactly.
those service, what do they call them? Regional service
Commissions.
districts or whatever commissions. I mean, you've got those little areas outside like Nicholas Denis, and now they all fall under your guys.
Going back to what you were saying a while ago about jobs, we need to bring more jobs to the region. And I know that Denis Caron, the Port Baldoon, the new guys are working together to bring a large business or a few large businesses here. But for municipalities, and I'm not in my colleague Kim Charbonnet's office, but Bell Bay, we're looking at smaller industry. Okay, we have industrial park that's pretty full now. We have to look at where we can establish a new industrial park for smaller business, and in order to keep bringing people to the region to get the economy going and keep it going, we need to have jobs for those people that comes here.
Yeah, but I think there's opportunity there. But it's that entrepreneurial spirit that you were talking about AI. It's taken that away. People are looking at different areas. You wouldn't look at a person who would say, I give you an example, pest control. A person would say, well, I'm going to open a pest control business because I know there's a need for it. But now people are looking at, well, wait a minute, maybe the AI, because of where they're schooling, the fact that they're gaming all the time and all this other stuff, it's changed that demographics of what people are interested in. And that's the challenge, I think. Is getting people back into that.
And we still have the entrepreneurial spirit, even in a cultural way. I mean, you take the Acadian Peninsula, the fishermen largely. And it's, how do you survive if you're out there and your boat breaks down? You got to find a way to deal with it. And from that comes cottage industries, machine shops, whatever else, building. And the same thing on farming. And so I think that's what we have to do. It's almost like an entrepreneurship, not an entrepreneurship system, but what do you call that? Working together with somebody who's fully qualified and
Apprentice?
apprentice type of program.
apprenticeship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at some of the big entrepreneurs that we've had. Frank Stronach. He was brought up in Austria, came to Canada, and look at the big company he built. Servicing automobiles and so on, largely as a result of the apprenticeship system. So these small little industries that you're talking about, Danielle, I think that we talked about that as it related to further down, the nuclear stuff and some of the other stuff where you'd had to build, structures and different other things to support it. They would come from, that sort of contracting would come from some of the small industries in an area. But you got to build for that. It's not going to happen overnight. Some of these projects that we're dealing with are 3, 4, 5 years down the road. The closest one probably is, maybe 1 year. With respect to the Black Tulip project, that's probably a little bit closer than some of the other. The green fuel one is going to be up and running by December. So there's stuff there that's happening, but it's you got to give hope to the younger generation to keep
And it's something the government has been working on. I mean, I remember when I was EA for Roland Ashley and Brian Kenny was a minister. At the time, you and Donald Arsenault and Mike Murphy and Roland Ashley got together, and that's why the two headquarters for Vitality and the community college came here. It was to create this base of knowledgeable people. To start, the region depended on mines and mills for a very long time.
Yeah.
Those days are over.
Yeah,
so we need to change the type of economy that we have here. It's good that Denis Caron is still working at the Port of Belgium to bring in major industry, but at the local level of Bell Bay and Bathurst, we're looking more at a service industry than anything else.
Yeah.
You mentioned something about farming, and one thing that I think personally I'd like to see more curriculum on teaching our younger students to be able to have food sovereignty, be able to understand our forests, understand our environment. It's got nothing to do with housing, but at the same time it does, because of the fact, especially you are what you eat. And we see all this processed food coming in from all over the world. We have chronic issues with diabetes and many other ailments, cancer and so on. And I do believe that you have some programs with fresh vegetables and growing at Papineau. Those are things I think too that we can do to be able to get our younger generation involved with the community and mixing with the seniors that, everybody we grew up, we had not myself, but we had a lot of people had gardens in their backyard. Those days seem to be gone.
But the older generation still have them. I know that my girlfriend's grandparents, they have a beautiful garden in the backyard, and they keep that up, and they eat what they harvested at the end of the season. They have quite a bit of. We always look forward to that because we get something.
I think municipalities.
I listened to both of you. I feel like I was back in time where I was sitting between David Kuhn and Kevin.
But all seriousness,
right
it is true though. We've got to take a look at that, because when you see, and especially what's going on in the United States.
Well, food security.
Food security and
is
sovereignty.
another big issue. I mean, like we've got programs that we can tap into with food security. Now that means getting a big container that can act as a greenhouse to grow vegetables that you can distribute out to the community. They're doing that in some parts of, even up north. Where they've got.
Sometimes
companies that are
it's
doing
not
that.
reinventing the wheel. You look at, the Chinese are very innovative with that kind of stuff. These massive greenhouses, and they grow year round, and they just continually growing vegetables year round.
Vertical farming and so on.
We've got to start getting back to that, but it's hard. Farmers are hard life.
But you can make a big difference. I was told by Mr. Kuhn at one point that New Brunswick only produces 4% of its 4% of the food that they require. Okay, the province buys, and if one individual decide to put a little bit of potatoes, a little garden in the backyard with potatoes, carrots, and lettuce, that represent for 1 month, only just 1 month, it's 1/12.
Really?
It's way more than 1/20. 5%. So just to build a little garden behind your house, you're doubling the production of the province right now.
I think there's a school down in on the shore around the Trackety Shipping area that do that. They have a garden for kids, and the kids manage the garden year round with the help of a couple of teachers to show them how to cultivate.
I think they're working at Bathurst High School right now.
Yeah, Bathurst High School too as well. I think
School are getting
that,
involved with this
and then the food goes into the school, and the school is self-sustainable. I think these are great programs, and that's what we've got to get more back into, right? I know when you guys were there, I remember that's when that program had started down in.
I remember asking a study with Natural Resources to find out all of the fertile soil in New Brunswick. And if you go back 50 or 60 years ago, you could drive through the province and you'd see farms out everywhere. But not a lot of those farms now are growing up with alders or growing up with vegetation. And the succession plans with those family farms, the younger people don't want to take them over because they're almost like a liability. So I think government has a role to play, communities have a role to play to be able to, especially for vegetable farming and stuff like that, to be able to have food right in your backyard.
Well, we're going to take a food break right now. Stay tuned.
Welcome back again. You can see we get into this. We're always talking. We're in good discussion here. So, guys, one of the things I wanted to talk about, because I know you've both been in past government, and when you come in as ministers or as representatives, when you're dealing with people who are in, I know there's some great people in the public service, and don't get me wrong, because I think I've met some great people there. But sometimes, do you find that there's a carryover from government to government to government in the sense that the people within there, let's say you go from a liberal government to a conservative government, but you've had, the conservative government was in before you guys, the way of thinking, how do you change that way of thinking? Even though you guys are the elected is there a transition period where you find you have to get people into that mentality to say, okay, look, that past government's gone?
Any new government has a election platform, and day one, the 2 weeks transition, day one, every deputy minister's got to take that platform and see what's in it for his department, and then they send new direction to the rest of the crew. Those are professionals. They know what to do. But it's basically they base all their work on the electoral platforms of the elected party.
But the premier would send letters to the ministers, right? To say, here's your mandate letters to go through.
A lot of that, as Daniel said, would be based on an electoral or a get-together for a political platform. So whether it's conservative, liberal, they would get together for their policy convention, and they would vote on a number of issues. So most of it is quite organic from the public bringing it to the elected officials, and then when they get elected and they get elected on that platform, then you try to implement that platform. One of the frustrating things for me is my experience being in, I think, five different governments, 5 elections. You'd have a liberal government, conservative government, liberal government, so it changes every 4 years. The civil servants pretty much stay there.
Yeah.
So if you have an agenda, whether it's an economic development agenda, which most parties have, well, when you take a look at it, we're all trying to do the same thing, but there's different ways of doing it. And it's frustrating, though, that if you have some good policies that we brought together, that we feel we brought together, the new government comes in and bang, it's gone. So all this work that not the MLAs, but the people that actually brought this to the table to be able to put on our platform, government changes, and then they throw out those policies that were good for the greater good of New Brunswick. So those are kind of the cynical parts that I feel about being a politician, but I do believe that every politician leader is in it for the right reasons.
Nobody puts his name on a
Brian's
ballot
not going to be running again, obviously. I mean, everybody's in it for the same, doing the same thing.
Nobody puts his name on a ballot to destroy the province.
No.
Or his region.
But the other thing that's interesting is you both served as, speakers of the House. It's confusing to me. What is the role of the speaker, and how do you manage the debates and you have to have a good understanding, I guess, of the rules and regulations to start
Well,
off.
if I was a deputy speaker, he was a speaker, and one of the perks is he got a really nice hat.
Yeah, that hat cost $900 at the province. I didn't want it, but
Did you get to keep it?
Yeah. No, yes.
You did to keep it.
I got to tell you,
nice
when my replacement got elected, Bill Oliver, and I offered the suit, okay, the complete suit cost the province back then $3,500. So I told Shane Davey at the time, I says, Shane, I'm leaving it here. Someone my size might come in 2 years down the road and here it's yours. He says, Danielle, he says, you got a brand new suit. The next speaker will get a brand new suit.
Yeah,
So,
makes sense. You know,
it makes sense, but it's still $3,500.
Yeah, government ways to get
it's in my
argument.
it's in my drawer home, and I don't know what I'll ever do with that. But anyway,
But you were a great speaker, and then the whole idea is to be able to keep quorum or keep the rhetoric down in the House. And when you get in there, there's some really good exchanges back and forth, but sometimes it'll get a little out of hand, and the speaker will get up and rule on that, whether it's parliamentary words being used. It was fun being deputy speaker, but he had the role as a full speaker for how many years?
2 years,
2 years.
26 months.
Yeah. Wow. So it.
So did you ever have to kick somebody out of the legislature?
No. The toughest part is when the public is there and they want to participate into the debate. You know, you're not allowed.
You mean from the gallery?
From the gallery?
From the gallery. You're not allowed. Only those on the floor, those that got elected, have the right to speak. It's the same thing in Ottawa. And but you get into those debates. I remember with the paramedic there, it was
some of the unions too. You see
was
some of the
quite
unions
heated
get
in there,
pretty-
and then I had to ask them to calm down. And but no, I have respect from both sides. I've said it many times. I never agreed with Mr. Higgs' policy. Okay, we disagreed on that. But as far as it being a gentleman with me, he was nothing but a gentleman with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, from a First Nation perspective, you know, the approach we've always taken, and I don't know if it's just the way it is, but you know, the Conservative government, and I've talked to the people vying for the position of leadership now with the Conservatives, and I said, you know, your approach has to change. It's just that, you know, there's got to be more of an inclusion and togetherness approach, because we're not going to get things done. If it's going to be confrontational and we're in court, it's costing the province money, it's costing First Nations money, nobody wins. But if we're there sitting at a table negotiating in good faith and getting onto, like my brother says, that range of negotiation, and we're moving there, we're going to accomplish a lot more.
I truly believe when we were in there in the first government that we really opened up the dialogue with communities. We had all of the chiefs from around the province. We had a round table right in the floor of the legislature, trying to have that open dialogue about how can we find partnerships, how can we find moving forward reconciliation, all of these, the above. Then it kind of went kind of backwards, sideways a bit, and then there was, you know, but you guys also, you know, at Pamela, you have an election process, you have, so you know all about how to try and keep people in tune with what your mandate is.
Well, we were pleased. We got in through acclamation.
Yeah,
we
this
didn't
last time we didn't even run an election. It was all through acclamation. But I mean, if you're doing the right thing, you're going to move forward. But I think the problem you have is that if you're not moving forward together, then the brakes are on. So if you're looking at economic development, you've got to have everybody on board, because otherwise it just gets stalled. I mean, you know, if I look at the last, you know, I'm not making a comparison, but I look at what the Conservatives did under Higgs. Not really economically, the only place that was, you know, the Port of Belleau or the Port of St. John. I mean, you know, something moved, and that was all through private development. But within holding the guidelines, you're putting, you know, again, I go back to this litigation thing. You never want to go to court. I think the solution, and the only people when you go to court are the lawyers, and they get rich.
And the proponents get the companies get it, you know, from a risk point of view. They don't want to go to court. You go to court, you get injunctions, you slows the project down, your costs go right up. So it behooves the government to work with First Nations, to work collaboratively on creating an environment for investment. You know, it's very important to have that. I know that, you know, in discussions with the Premier, she doesn't think that, like, Vancouver's approach, BC's approach with respect to the equivalent similar to Bill C5, 14 or 15, I can't remember which BC's is. She doesn't think that's the way to go. She thinks it's much better to, negotiate and sit down and work up a relationship with First Nations. We've finally came to an agreement with the tax rebate program, with which, the previous government had withdrew. Now people say, well, why do you get a tax rebate? Well, we want to be able to have self-sustainable environment, our communities, so we can get on our own. So, for a long, we had this discussion earlier on with the other group that was here. You have to have, for the longest time, the trees were cut, the minerals were flowed through your traditional territory, you got nothing from it, right? And so now the paradigm has shifted, saying, okay, well, there's got to be some sort of equity involved in this, in terms of, us getting a share of what leaves the territory, or being part of, any development. And, we've got about 5 major projects now that are on the books, and every one of them is looking at a 51-49 split in terms of equity.
And I think from a First Nation perspective, which a lot of people don't understand, is our money stays in the province. We don't have offshore bank accounts in any foreign country. We don't take our money out of the province. Our money stays here in the province.
Yeah.
We spend everything in the province. It was interesting because we had a couple of companies that we dealt with. You were talking about small companies earlier, Danielle. I mean, they would have not survived COVID if it were not for us, because we kept them going.
So,
with the work that we were doing. And I think that's the key, is that working together, because then they see and the work that was done was phenomenal. I mean, we built, I think, 16 homes in our community in that short period of time, and 3
Fourplexes, yeah.
3 fourplexes. So, we've housed, you always need more housing, obviously, there's more need, but, we've put a significant dent into the people who were looking for homes. So it's growing that and doing it together. I mean, we've always been saying to, and with Danielle and Bell Bay, I mean, we've been working together with the mayor and the council there. They've been great. Kim with the city of Bathurst. I mean, we're still working together there, and it's that togetherness that you talked about that's how we're going to get through all this.
Bottom line, any government, whether it's provincial, federal, or municipal, you got to work with your partners.
Yeah.
On the province side, they've got to partner with you. They've got to partner with the unions, the different groups,
Yeah,
the municipalities.
yeah.
Us, we got to partner with our fishermen, with our different organizations.
Exactly.
If you don't work with your partner,
Yeah.
it's the recipes for failure.
Yeah, and you got to manage those expectations. That's
the communication is key also, is having that open dialogue and talking about the pitfalls that are there, especially when you mentioned, about having a return on investment for the business community. And let's look at it the way it is that if you don't have outside investment coming into the area, that's never going to grow. Now, what we're trying to do as in my small family business is that we're trying to grow, and I have a number of employees now and I've hired more people. And when I look at where I was 5 years ago and to where I am today, since COVID, I've substantially grown my little company, but I'm just one small little fish in it. But if there's 10 small little fish, then that's the whole idea. I think the other thing that's interesting with the politicians, especially at the municipality level and the regional service commissions and working with your community, is that you have to have that open mind. How do we deal with the rules and regulations that are there, and how do we make it easier for development, whatever that could be, to try and eliminate red tape? And that's one of the reasons why I got into politics, was I could remember they were talking about a red tape reduction committee way back in 2001, 2002, and I was involved with the Chamber of Commerce at the time. And I was so frustrated with the red tape, whether it was at City Hall or municipality or at the provincial or federal government. I think we've made some gains, but then more regulation comes in. And then, so you make gains. So at the same time, making sure that we protect our environment and make sure that it's sustainable. That's the issue. So how do you find that balance? But I think right now the politicians of the day are looking at all of those issues, saying, okay, we've got some climate change, look at what's happening throughout the world. How do we mitigate those issues? Population growth, population aging.
Yeah.
There's so many factors that
Yeah.
it's going to be tough.
There's a lot of challenges out there, no doubt, but I think, again, partnership is the way to do it. Deal with the problems and move forward. I mean, we all have, the desires to make sure that the future generations can benefit, right? And, to grow the communities as well. But you got the challenges and, facing growth that, you talk about infrastructure being one. There's all kind, and we've got the same problem too. Some of the infrastructure, and if you want to attract investment, infrastructure is a big thing. You got to have the infrastructure that's there to attract the investment.
Well, welcome back to Mawio'mi Gathering Place in our final segment here, and I think we passed through a lot of the negative side. So now we're going to go up onto a positive side here. We're going to talk about some of the great things that are happening in the region, bro.
For sure.
From our perspective, I think the Port of Baldoon, we've got the Green Energy Project.
Yeah.
With diesel fuel coming, that's almost there. We've got biomass,
The black pellet
black
project,
pellet,
yeah.
which will lead to possibly 100 jobs in the region.
Yeah.
The green diesel is about 12 jobs.
Yeah.
And then, you've always got, with those jobs, you've always got the off side too, right? Which will get into sort of bride side. They're going to need houses. They're going to be looking for homes, those employees. And then, and then you've got the positive plus that's coming. So I think we've got some great things in the future in the horizon, and it's looking a lot better in the region. And I think we're doing great. And Danielle, I know you've got some stuff going on as well.
Yeah, we're working with a company by the name of Rue Principale. They're a group of experts in urbanism, you say that? Planning, and engineers, and they're working with us. We made a survey earlier this spring where we questioned our people, what's missing in the region as far as businesses, services, what's missing? So they came up with a bunch of ideas, what's required and what the people of Belleville are looking for. So whenever we get all those stats together, we'll be able to sit with companies, let's say a Boston Pizza, for instance, okay, or a hotel. Or
God, he's going to beat us to Boston Pizza. We've been looking at that.
I already
well,
called
you can't come to Belleville to build it. We'll be partners.
Okay.
No, I'm just throwing example there, okay?
Yeah.
So
No,
this
that's
company is there to establish a plan for Belleville.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at now. As soon as we probably should have more info by mid-October. But once we have a plan, we got to go to public meetings, and
Yeah.
you just don't change your main street without talking to your people.
Yeah.
We also have the Parc de la Santé, des Amis de la Santé in Beresford. There's a few businesses that they established themselves last year there, and we're working with Petit Rocher, with Le Quai.
Yeah.
That's an old Alpha. Actually, it was Roland Ashley and you guys at the time that made the transfer some of the property to the village of Petit Rocher back then.
Right.
And Roland's idea was to make this a tourism attraction area. And he's not any longer with us, but his dream is coming true.
That's good.
I like going down in Petty Rush there, going down towards the beach there, and you end up getting, where you have the.
Containers?
I eat there regularly.
Well, that's what we're talking about.
We
transfer, yeah.
But reclamation is the other thing. That's being very positive. We're doing the Old Brunswick mine site, for example. We're looking at putting solar on it. We had a conference call today with the company that we're dealing with from Ireland, and they're going through with respect to the latest request for expression of interest from NB Power. There's going to be about 4 of those that just in the region. We got 2 projects, 3 projects actually down along one in Pocashaw, which is a windmill. We got one in Stonehaven, which is both a windmill and a solar.
And we have another solar project up on Brunswick, up by the sawmill.
So there's a lot that's going to be coming, and with this is going to be a need for the service stuff that you're talking about. Even on the windmills, like Mr. Frenette, in concrete and that, you grow Andre. We've been talking to Andre about that, growing and others. I don't want to just leave it with Andre, but dealing with that, and then with the Port of Baldoon, we're looking at partnership with Andre in terms of the fuel and how you can get tanker trucks there, and so he can get more tanker trucks. He can get a couple of tanker trucks, and that's a 24/7 operation.
Keeping the businesses open and keeping our communities thriving, right?
Exactly.
You see that, when I talk to the shipping people, they say, geez, because the younger people try to get into the fishing industry as an example. It's hard sometimes, but you've got to keep those. You got to keep what's made you successful in order to keep growing. And your business as well, Brian. You're expanding.
Yeah, I've been expanding, and I've had a number of renovations in some of my buildings. I have I've got 5 houses, well, actually 4 houses on the go right now. Wow. So that's keeping me busy. And I've got a couple of other projects I'm working on, which are large projects, but it takes time, financing, planning, and so on. One of the things I do want to commend, Bell Bay and along the coastline where you have all these projects for tourism. The summer, it's great here. You see so many younger people getting involved with operating those businesses. In Bathurst, our waterfront development, the festivals that are on. There's a festival this week in Business Bay. Those are the things that bring. I've got friends that are coming up now because we've got some of the premier festivals here in New Brunswick, right here in our own backyard with, world-class musicians coming here, and not just musicians, but the festival committees have other things going on for all walks of life. But with that said, we want to be able to cater to our younger people to be able to enjoy the quality of life. So we need employment. And the other thing too, with the provincial government, we're looking at building a brand new community college to take a look at our post-secondary educating. So there's a lot of positive opportunities in this area, and I think we need to brag about it a bit more to the rest of the world, and maybe hopefully there's a few people watching to say, come here.
Give
me a call.
Absolutely.
Call me.
You heard Brian, give him a call.
and we've got the Congrès.
Building 4 houses.
The Congrès Mondial coming
all
in
sold, by the way.
2029.
That's
they're
going to
all
be
sold.
huge. That's going to be huge.
A lot of people don't realize the Congrès Mondial, we have it in our region. I mean, that's going to be in 2029. That's a huge, we're talking 100,000 people that attend that.
But Brian, you're talking about something for the younger people. We're looking at a bingo parlor for the older people. We are, seriously, and part of a casino as well.
Yeah.
We're going to go the legal route. I think we're looking at going through Atlantic lotteries as opposed to pushing it on our own.
Well, when you got to face it, if we got 50% of our population over the age of 65 here, we got to have something for them to do here too. So
Bingo!
Bingo. Yeah.
But that's the positive thing. There's a lot of, it's a great region. You couldn't ask, you hit it earlier, Brian, when you said, I always say there's no shore like the North Shore, that's for sure. And the northern part of New Brunswick, the ties with the Acadian population, the First Nation population, the Scottish heritage here, we're rich in heritage along this coast, and it's a great place to live. And what we take for granted, a lot of people don't, they pay big money to get that.
One thing, when Danielle and I were in government, we always would work together to try and bring the civil servants to the area or to the other MLAs. And when they got here, how many times have we driven to Moncton or Fredericton or St. John in a year? It's no big deal for us to hop in our car and go down there. But for those people to come up here, it's like twice the distance, So, but when they do get here and see what we have to offer, they don't believe it. They don't believe how beautiful our region is, the coastlines we have, the rivers, it's the forestry, and the accommodations. We've got some world-class accommodations here. So we've got to boast it a bit more to have the rest of the province come up and see us.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's, there's no question. We've talked to some of the public servants as well, that some of them been up here for the first time.
Correct.
A public servant, first time up in northern New Brunswick, but, they see it and they enjoy it. It's something that I think we can promote a lot of, that's for sure. I think, we've got a great region. We want to see the region grow. We want to create activity for people in the region so that, running all spectrum, younger, older,
And working together is going to be the way we're going to do that. That's the reality.
Yep.
If we're not working together, we're not going to get it done. And I think that's the key. And we all want the same thing. We want to have a prosperous, healthy region. We want people to come here. We want people to retire here. We want people to live here. That's what we're looking for, and I think we have, we have a lot to offer. That's for sure. I was just in Quebec, and I was on a lake, and I'm looking at how many people are they're crammed together around this little lake because it's water, and I'm like, man, we've got great beaches down where we are, and it's lots of space, you know, and they all think they're in heaven, and I'm thinking, man, this is like kind of cramped for me. But you know, we have that here.
Yeah.
I'm optimistic for the region. I think this is a great region. It beats the jungle where I was living for the last 15 years, but I still have a house down there, and I still like the jungle. But sometimes, you know, I reflect on what we've got here. And having traveled, you know, across the world, lived in different countries, I mean, you come back here and you really want to kiss that ground and say, thank goodness this is where we are.
That's all.
It's home. Yeah. It's
home.
It's right. And there's so much.
We got one more, sorry, bro. We got one more segment. Well, not more segment, about another minute or 2 minutes. So parting comments.
Well, I'm happy that you invited me to come here. I had a chance to speak about Bell Bay, and I had the chance to meet an old friend. We've been to certain battles together. We won some, we lost some, but at the end of the day, hopefully we made something good for the region here.
Again, thanks for the invitation here today. I am really, it's really nice to see you again too, and reflect on some of the things we did. My father got an operation yesterday at the hospital, and the service at the Chaleur Regional Hospital was second to none. And one thing, I can't wait till they open the new hospital, because Roland was instrumental. I was instrumental in receiving the funding to be able to build that new hospital.
Right.
And it's the state of the art. So that there will also be another positive thing where we will have people working in that new hospital. But with that said, thanks again for the hard work that you're doing to help promote our community.
Listen, thank you again, and we'll see you next time on Mawio'mi Gathering Place.